going to continue kind of just talking about this demonic influence and oppression. And we're going to show a video here. I think there's a lot of little nuances that might be helpful to you. But just know this, the video kind of presents it or suggests that this person was saved and they're demonically possessed. And as Brandon's already shared, that's impossible. We recognize that Satan can sift a believer, he can oppress a believer, but he can't indwell a believer. In fact, there's many people who believe that they're saved. How many of you know there's many people who believe that they're saved and they're not? In fact, Jesus says a whole bunch of them in the last days will say, Lord, of course you know us. We did this for you and we did this. And he says, depart from me, I never knew you. So let this be a call to you. Just because you've gone to church, just because you've raised your hand somewhere, the question is, do you know Jesus Christ as your Savior? It matters in the spiritual battle. Let's watch this together.
She was someone who I trusted, someone who I became comfortable being around. She spoke to me and she said, Alicia, I want to tell you something. And she said, I'm involved in the occult.
Alicia Sweeting Miller was 13 years old when she met Lorona, a school teacher who told Alicia she had psychic powers.
And she said that I've seen the gift in you. I've seen the gift in you, and that's one of the reasons why I was drawn to you. I was attracted to you, and so I believe that I could help advance this gift.
At the time, Alicia was living in Jamaica, where her parents raised her in church. In fact, just months before, she had given her life to Christ.
It was really genuine. I was really excited because I knew for a fact that if I had died that time, I was in the right place or right standing. And I just began to spread the good news that I was now a Christian. I was now serving God.
At first, Alicia was wary of Lorona, but there was also something intriguing about her new friend.
I began to think that, okay, if she was a witch or if she practiced this thing, maybe she was a good person, maybe she was a good witch. I began to think about all the shows that I was seeing on television. I began to be in denial as to what she really was.
Little by little, she introduced Alicia into the occult, using tarot cards, meeting spirit guides, and summoning spirits.
There was one evening I decided I was gonna summon the demon. Suddenly I felt a jerk. And the only thing I remembered after that was walking down the streets in the traffic. A couple neighbors were there. They were saying all sorts of stuff like maybe it was drugs and she was on drugs and this thing was driving her out of her mind.
As she delved more into the occult, Alicia enjoyed the sense of control she felt it gave her.
I wanted to have that recognition. I wanted to be known about becoming one of the world's powerful witch. And I wanted to do what I wanted to do and no one telling me what to do.
Alicia moved to the Bahamas to delve deeper into occult practices. She also became an angry and vengeful woman, ready to cast a spell on anyone who crossed her.
At the time, I always believed that no one would do me anything and get away with it. I would have to get you back, and it would have to be worse than what you did to me. I had this vengeance in me, and I felt as if though I had to be my own god.
By her early 20s, Alicia was a well-known witch, making great money reading fortunes for conventioneers. Then, one evening, Alicia had a visitor.
I was coming from Paradise Island. At that night, I did one of the biggest readings of my entire life. I think I read for almost 1,500 persons. And as I was driving over the bridge, it felt as if there was someone else was in the car with me, and I began to look over my shoulders, look in the mirror to make sure that no one else was in the car, and I began to think to myself, wonder if I picked up a spirit that was over there. That night when I got home, I felt as if though I was dumb. I felt like I couldn't talk. And I laid in the bed that night and I could not sleep. But I felt like I could not get up out of the bed to open the door, and I could not open my mouth to say, hey, I'm in here.
Alicia began to feel pressure on her chest that felt like a heart attack.
I began to think to myself, I'm gonna die. Only in the movies, when I watch the movies that someone is gonna die, that their entire life begin to flash across their face just like this. And so I began to say, if I die, I don't wanna die like this.
For the first time since she was 13, Alicia prayed to God.
And I said, God, if you spare me, if you give me one more chance, I would serve you. I want to change my life. I want to turn things around. I promise you that I would serve you for the rest of my life, and I will tell others about you and about what you did for me.
The presence left. Afterwards, Alicia called Lorona to tell her she was through and started reading her Bible and praying daily.
Wow, there's a lady that was influenced by a teacher and was introduced to the whole occult. Friends, you don't want to make friends with witches. There's no such thing as a good witch.
Right.
Am I right?
That's right. That's the whole point. Your associations matter. Yeah. Bad company corrupts good character, as Paul said. But when you're dealing with people in the occult, it's a whole new ball game, because the demonic will come after you as well. So just be very, very careful, guys.
Jan, how you had some involvement with the cult when you're in your younger years. How were you introduced to that? How were you seduced?
Well, quite frankly, at my Christian college, I'll leave it unnamed. Most people know of the college I would name. And obviously that's a few years ago, but nonetheless, back then, it was treated, the Ouija board was treated as a kind of a novelty, kind of a game. And this...
So hold it. Now, you've gone to a church here locally. You
Yes.
trusted Christ as your Savior,
Absolutely.
I'm assuming. And now you're at a Bible college, and you're
college.
introduced to the occult
That's
at a
right.
Bible college?
Yes, right. And again, a lot of this is treated as a novelty. It's fun. It's just intriguing, and that's the way it was perceived at this particular Christian college. And the kids were just totally enmeshed in the Ouija board. Yes, and therefore, I was thrown off guard because I thought it must be harmless because all these wonderful Christian kids are talking to it. And I went on and got very deeply involved. And we don't need to go into detail. The only point is the devil is so sneaky, he's so cunning, that he even seduced hundreds and hundreds of students at this Christian college. I'm leaving unnamed, though you'd all know of it. Could that happen today? Not only could it happen today, it'd be even worse today because this is an occultized society and it's creeping into the church, as Brandon so adequately expressed, from the walking the labyrinth to contemplative prayer to the Enneagram to Christian yoga. There's no such thing as Christian yoga, okay? It's an oxymoron. It does not exist. And I know some of you who are watching are engaged in it, and you think it's harmless. I'm sorry, but you are dancing with the devil.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually our next talking point there, is the yoga church.
Yoga church.
Yeah.
And friends, this is everywhere. I mean, go Google it. You'll be shocked. Now, Brandon, you're a pastor. People say this all the time. But I don't do it to be involved with the occult. It's just exercise. You know what I tell them? There's all sorts of other ways to exercise while you're using Hindu poses and so forth to open your soul up to what do you say to them?
Yeah, it's the same thing. The practice of yoga can't be separated from its religious aspect. I don't care if you're saying you're stretching. Well, go stretch another way. I mean, good night. But every position in yoga is worshiping a deity of Hinduism, and you can't escape from that. And that's a practice why it's forbidden. You can't do that.
What about the Enneagram, you two? I mean,
Oh boy.
church staffs are being exposed
We've
to
done
it all
some
the time.
radio on it. I mean, it's supposedly a personality test, and it's got, I think, 9 parts to it. I've not been engaged in the Enneagram, but Mark, you did a radio segment on it. I think you should talk about it.
Yeah, just recently in December, we did a whole hour on this very subject. I want to encourage you to go back. You can find it on olivetreeviews.org. And actually, you two just did that, was a week ago, this whole series on demonic influence. And so all of this is interconnected here.
Right.
You don't want to dance with the devil. This isn't a game.